Can't get enough of Kelly and Ramya?
We're now on YouTube for you to indulge in highlights from our show. Kelly and I we sat down with Iryna Chepchyna, president of the Ukrainian Society of the Deaf, and she told us how this organization is helping people with disabilities access critical information and programming as the Ukraine continues to fight the Russian invasion. So here we can take a listen to this conversation and find out the details. A little over 2 years ago, on February 24th, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a, quote, special military operation, which marked the beginning of the illegal incursion against Ukraine. The all-out invasion has resulted in tens of thousands of civilian deaths and more than 10 million Ukrainians displaced. It's also, of course, significantly increased the vulnerability of its people with disabilities. The Ukrainian Society of the Deaf, which is the initiative we're going to be talking about today, is an NGO that has assisted people with impaired hearing in the Ukraine since 1933. And since the beginning of the war, they've worked tirelessly to support the deaf community with interpreting services to access critical information and programming. Iryna Chepchyna is the president of the society, and she's here to tell us more about the initiative. She's speaking to us in Ukrainian Sign Language. The voice that we'll be hearing is the voice of her interpreter, Alex. Nice to have you both on the show. And Iryna, let's start with this question. Tell us about the experience of deaf Ukrainians since the outbreak of the conflict, please.
Thank you for the invitation. Now we're going to be going through translation and we'll share the answer.
Якщо згадати про перші дні після війни, після агресії, у нас у цих років було...
Remembering the first days of the full-scale invasion, we were all shocked.
Ми всі розгубилися, не знали, що робити далі.
We were all in disbelief. We didn't know what to do next. And we felt like we are in an informational vacuum.
І насамперед ми в першу чергу зробили групу в чаті Telegram. Ми спілкуємося між собою.
First things we did, we created a messenger chat group where we communicated with each other, with people from across the country who are affected.
За конкретне питання. Бо ці дні було дуже багато звернень до нас.
We divided these chats and separated them according to different questions.
Потім ми мали справу з урядовою уповноваженою Тетяною Баранцовою.
And we tried to help to every person who was in need there. Then we managed to get in touch with Tatiana Barantsova, who was a governmental representative of a disabled person in Ukraine. And she helped us a lot in terms of getting out of the conflict zone for people affected in the areas where it was really, really dangerous to live. And that's how people that's how people also received a translation into sign language of the received sign language translation of the Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, all the addresses, speech, and so on and so forth. And then that's thanks to these people, we managed to inform all the affected deaf persons, and we are working 24/7. Then with time it all settled down a little bit, so we knew what are the responsibilities of each person at our organization is.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Iryna, in your opinion, during times of emergency, are the needs of persons with disabilities overlooked?
Під час військового стану, під час кризи будь-яка установа не готова до контакту з глухими людьми.
Може бути поручень, або депутати. During such a run of events, it's not a single government or organization, unfortunately, is ready to contact with people who have disabilities, in particular deaf people or people who have hearing disabilities.
Наприклад, в місті Дніпро в багатоповерхівці було руйнування, і під завалами знаходилася сім'я глухих. Їх врятувати, вони не чули.
For instance, there was a really unfortunate situation when, as a result of Russian missile hitting a residential building in the city of Dnipro, under the rubble, under the debris, there was a family of Ukrainians who were deaf, and they couldn't even hear the calls of the emergency services, and it was really difficult to help them.
Рятувальники шукали людей під завалом. Хто чує, міг реагувати, а от глухі ні. І випадково випадок був в Дніпрі. Чому я згадала про Дніпро? Там дівчинка врятувалася завдяки розумному годиннику.
It was really difficult because some people could hear the calls for help, and so they could be saved there. But the way people with hearing disability managed to survive there, because they could orient using the smartwatch, so they could actually understand where they need to go in order to not get trapped under the debris.
Мама знайшла свою доньку через розумний годинник, дівчинку врятували, а ось чоловіка, дитину – ні. Вони загинули.
Unfortunately, two people died. A father and a child died as a result of that explosion and missile hitting the residential building. And the girl who used the smartwatch, she managed to get in touch with her mother, and that's how she survived.
So there's been a lot of...
В кожній державній установі має бути забезпечення перегляду жестової мови. А фактично на практиці це складно зробити під час війни. Щоб могли глухі люди отримувати повноцінну інформацію.
During a crisis situation like this, and during emergency situations, every governmental institution should have a way to contact with people with hearing disabilities, but unfortunately it didn't happen. It all was like that at the start of the full-scale invasion, because I guess everyone was shocked, and obviously now the situation is much better.
Can you continue to tell us about the assistance that the Society secured for the deaf community through the humanitarian appeal helped?
Пріоритети в роботі на початку війни і під час війни. Перше, це інформаційна діяльність, я вже розказала. Це забезпечення перекладу жестової мови. Друге, це евакуація людей, яких треба евакуювати з небезпечних місць. І вирішити питання стосовно евакуації. У нас десь 7 тисяч глухих виїхало в Європу, а решта 9 тисяч переїхали в Західну Україну.
Ukrainian Society of the Deaf is taking care of people in two ways. First, we're providing the organization is providing the informational support, and secondly, helping them with evacuation. So 7,000 people, 7,000 people who have hearing disabilities, deaf people, have been displaced, and now they found refuge in the cities of Western Europe, for instance, and even countries like Canada. I'm pretty sure about that. And then 9,000 people were forced to move from the eastern part of the country and from the southern part of the country, which is currently being occupied by Russia, and towards the areas which are under Ukrainian control.
І третій – видача гуманітарної допомоги, продуктами, ліками, відвідування додому до людей, доставка харчування. І для них, для тих, хто не хоче евакуюватися, залишився в окупації небезпечних для проживання. Серед наших дітей з'явилося дуже багато волонтерів, які поїхали в ті райони, щоб роздавати допомогу. Не було води нормальної, завозили туди воду.
And also there's a third aspect how the Ukrainian Society of the Deaf is helping, is providing the help to the people in need in a way where they're distributing food, they are helping they're helping financially, and some people have even become volunteers, and they are helping other people in need in the areas where the conflict is fierce and ongoing currently, and they're helping people in need there. Like for instance, in the city of Mykolaiv, there was a necessity of clean drinking water, so they were helping provided there during these past 2 years.
Дуже багато часу ми витратили на оформлення документів для глухих чоловіків, чоловічої статі, військкоматах, щоб вони могли далі виїхати в Європу. Складний процес, але наші перекладачі допомагають всім глухим чоловікам.
Also, it was a really difficult and tedious process to help with the documents for men of conscripted age, because there's a lot of red tape, but eventually Ukrainian Society of the Deaf managed to help them cross the border, because currently men of conscripted age cannot cross the border without special permission.
Iryna, what other emergency and wartime services does the Society offer to help people with disabilities?
Сервіс УТОГ 24/7. Ми створили цей цілодобовий зв'язок, щоб будь-яка глуха людина могла зателефонувати за допомогою відеозв'язку і вирішити всі питання. Це важливо, що ми запропонували цей сервіс.
So we, first and foremost, we are offering the USOD. It is spelled UTOG in Ukrainian, but it would be USOD 24/7. That's a special service that is helping people with disabilities. They can call pretty much 24/7 and ask for assistance. And we're really proud that this is something that is really working and helping people currently.
And moving forward, how can Canadians lend our support to Ukrainians and the disability community moving forward?
У вас в Канаді є канадсько-українська фундація. На початку війни вони потужно підтримали нашу організацію фінансово. Завдяки цьому ми змогли зберегти працівників в регіонах України, у всіх регіонах України, перекладачів і соціальних працівників. Хочу подякувати Роману Петришину і Дебрі Рассел, які були задіяні фінансуванні за допомогою канадсько-української фундації.
So first and foremost, we are really grateful for Canadian Ukrainian Foundation as CUF, and this is in particular we're grateful to Roman Petrushin and Deborah Russell who helped the Ukrainian Society of the Deaf and helped in terms of financing. So thanks to them, we managed to keep all the employees, and we managed to keep them not only in the city of Kyiv but also in the regions, and that's how we actually the organization managed to survive. So big thank you to these people and to the Canadian Ukrainian Foundation. А все ж таки, як можна на майбутнє питати, як майбутнє допомогти?
Ми завжди відчуваємо підтримку канадців, канадського уряду і простих канадців. Ми знаємо, що Канада завжди з нами. Було б добре, якщо канадці знайшли можливість підтримати нас і далі фінансово, щоб зберегти наших перекладачів вже свободи для надання важливих для них послуг.
We really appreciate the help that Canadian government and people who care and all the NGOs. We appreciate that help, financial help that they're providing, and they are the reason why there are still sign language translators working here, and they're the reason why this organization is functioning and properly functioning currently. So big thank you, and if we, that's something that is always welcomed for the organization.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Iryna,
Thank you.
for coming on the show, and Alex for your support as well for this conversation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us, and I appreciate your support as well. Дякую за те, що прийшли до нас.
That was a conversation we had with Iryna Chepchyna and with support from Alex, the translator. And Iryna is the president of the Ukrainian Society of the Deaf. We were talking about emergency wartime services for the deaf community in Ukraine and a lot of the other support offered by the initiative as well.
Thanks for watching.
You can catch Kelly and Ramya weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on AMI.